Let's go to Old Trafford. Manchester United beat Sunderland by 2-0. Stuart Atwell was the referee. The VAR was Neil Davis. Sunderland had a penalty just before half-time, but it was overturned because Benjamin Sesko didn't quite make contact with Traore. There was a long throw into the penalty area. It looked like there was a high foot, and the referee, Stuart Atwell, after consideration with his assistant, gave a penalty. But he shouldn't have done, should he? Because it got a little bit murky after that, because there wasn't that much contact, Chris.
It's a really interesting one, but I think the outcome was a terrific outcome, to get this decision right. I mean, it took a while, didn't it? I mean, from Stuart Atwell's position, he quite clearly can't see what's happened in the penalty area, but the assistant referee, Konstantin Hazardakis, who's on that side, who's assistant one, has the best view, and it takes a little while to get there, but he gives information to Stuart Atwell. He conveys what he's seen, and the referee points to the spot. Well, quite clearly we know that the VAR, Neil Davis, recommended a review, and as you say, Sam, when Stuart Atwell went to the monitor and looked at that, the player was sort of holding his head as though he'd been kicked in it, and he hadn't. So in my opinion, I thought this was a really good intervention. I think the learnings from this one are for the assistant referee, that if you're going to convey information to the referee, it's got to be clear, it's got to be concise, it's got to be positive, and it's got to be accurate.
Because it is the assistant that gives the penalty.
Yeah, it looks that way. I mean, if you look at Stuart Atwell's position, I don't think he's in a position to see it. And where the assistant is, he's looking clear at that, and he will communicate what he's seen to the referee. He will, he'll absorb that information, and he's pointed to the spot. But I think realistically, if the assistant referee says nothing and the game's allowed to continue, then we wouldn't be seeing a review for this one.
Should they have given a yellow card for simulation to Traore?
Big talking point this season, is it, simulation? I know we'll talk about a couple of those incidents later on. Not really. I think sometimes a little bit of contact there. Very difficult to caution somebody when there's contact unless there's a clear act to deceive the referee. What you're actually saying is that player cheating? You've got to be mindful of that, so you've got to be 100% positive. I don't think that was a case of simulation, Sam.
He wasn't trying to win the penalty, no, of course not. We hear the term high foot quite a lot. What does that actually mean? Because that was a very high foot in the penalty area. Was there any way that he could have been penalised for having his foot that high, even if there wasn't contact?
You could give an indirect for dangerous play, but not in that situation. I just think that's just a play on. You're not. It's not a penalty. Just let the game run on there.
Interestingly, the restart was a corner kick. Does this mean the initial awarding of the penalty would have been wrong anyway? Just explain that for us.
What happened was that the ball had gone out over the goal line for a corner, and that's how you would restart play in that situation, because the ball had gone out. And it's the correct outcome, because at the end of the day, you've got to make sure that the restart is correct. And in this situation, that's exactly what it was.
Right. Bertrand Traore, cautioned for simulation. He was running through down the left-hand side just before the hour mark, went past Lammens, looked as if there was a little bit of contact between him and Bruno Fernandes, but the referee on the spot very quickly booked him for simulation. Here is our simulation incident. I mean, was it definitely a yellow card for diving? And did Bruno Fernandes not make contact with the side of his hip?
It shouldn't have been a yellow card for simulation, because there was minimal contact from Bruno Fernandes on Traore. The referees read this one wrong, in my opinion. We talk about simulation a lot. We have done this season. Is it a clear act of simulation? No. Could it have been a foul? Possibly. Does it meet the threshold? No. I think what you have to do in situations like this, Sam, is adopt the third way. The third approach, which is just let play continue. But wasn't
that's a
a
couple
dive.
of times now, Chris, where we've had this situation where we could have gone the third way, but we've decided to book players for simulation. We were told at the beginning of the campaign that they're going to clamp down on diving in the Premier League. Now, are we being a little bit too over-eager looking for these scenarios? And is this going to continue over the course of the season? Or are we now going to backtrack because we've got one or two wrong?
No, you judge every incident on its own individual merits, and that there's so much to take into consideration with simulation. Is the player avoiding contact? Are they initiating contact? Are they exaggerating contact? these are all considerations. And from Stuart Atwell's position on the field, he quite clearly felt that he'd been deceived by Traore. I don't think he had. I think this was a perfect example of just let the game play out. It's not a caution for simulation. It's not a foul.
But if you need all that information and you can't see all those angles, it's very sort of impulsive to give a yellow card without having witnessed all of those different things. So therefore, should you not wait and use VAR slightly differently and ask for a little bit of advice from those in the booth?
Well, you can't, can you? Because if you caution somebody for simulation, that's a yellow card, and VAR relates to direct red cards. So in this situation, it looks, to all intents and purposes, from Stuart's position, that the player's gone down very easily. He hasn't seen the contact from Bruno Fernandes, and he decides to caution. But as I said, Sam, sometimes the third way is the best way.
Do you think this has come about because people just get fed up with diving? Is it on the rise? Is there more of it now and people have just had enough? So we thought, right, okay, we're going to have a clamp down on this.
No, I think at the start of the season, what we said, if a player is intending to deceive a referee to get a decision out of something that isn't there, we should really be punishing that, because what you're saying is this player cheating? Are they trying to win a penalty when quite clearly they haven't been fouled and they've given the referee a decision to make? So I think we have to be really positive with that. Sometimes, yes, it's a penalty. Sometimes, yes, it's a clear act of simulation, yellow card, and sometimes it's a play on. But, having been out there in the thick of it, they're really, really tough decisions to detect sometimes.